Well, if you are tuning in, you are tuning into my third episode of Rabbit Ears, which is just a segment I do here on YouTube, or it's something I venture out of, the Playboy mysteries and all of those other fine things. So today's Rabbit Ears episode is basically just a movie review on Brande Roderick's picture debut, and she directed it. It's her first directorial debut, I should say, and I took the time and liberation to watch it from start to finish, and I thought I would just kind of give my opinion and give a little bit of a review on it. So before I basically just dive into the topic of Wineville, I wanted to tell you that I think it is a 4 out of 5, and I will explain why I think it is a 4 out of 5. Now, I know when it comes to my horror movie buffs and just people that are hardcore horror movie fanatics, and rightfully so, I'm one of them myself, but I always get heat when I give a good review on a new film. I feel like the horror community is very much stuck in their ways at times, and when you give a 4 out of 5 on a new movie, they kind of go, well, how dare you, or maybe their review doesn't really mesh yours. So they're most of the time when I watch new movies, and let's say I give a review and I think it's a 4 out of 5, like Wineville, people always give me heat, like, whoa, you thought that was a 4 out of 5? Like, yes, I did. But I'm here to really explain some of the layers of Brande Roderick's new picture that she directed. I thought she did a fantastic job, let me tell you, and I will get into the details of that right now. I'd like to think that Brande, being very experienced and knowledgeable in the film world and film photography, and I'm assuming she's learned quite a few things over her big vast career of movies and television, so I'd like to think she used some of her own personal experiences and maybe personal health she went through to maybe fine-tune her own director debut, and I think she did a good job. There were some cliches to some of the characters, not so much Brande's, but some of the cliches of the characters. I was like, not really feeling it, but the whole story context, before I really give a rundown of my review here on Rabbit Ears, I wanted to say it did very much remind me of a 70s slasher film. Now, I do think that Brande did mention that she was trying to go for a Texas Chainsaw 70s kind of vibe, and pardon me, I had some Pepsi. I think she did a great job at portraying the 70s, but not to the Texas Chainsaw effect. I wasn't getting that 70s energy or vibe, if you will. I was getting more so a Rob Zombie trying to go back in the 70s vibe, and that's not a diss. I think some of the characters, some of the backgrounds, even the vehicles in the movie in Wineville were very much 70s, and I was very believing that atmosphere that she was creating as a director. She did a very fine point on that, very much so, and the story context was pretty interesting, to say the least. Now, I would really like to know where Brande gets her quite extreme imagination for the world and genre of the horror movies, because it is quite a tale. She really did a fine job at directing it, and the story kept my attention fully from start to finish. I would like to say maybe the last 30, maybe not 30 minutes, but the last 20 minutes of the film was kind of not losing my attention, but it went from having my eyes non-stop glued to just going, alright, what is the ending here? So I'm not going to spill the ending here by any means. I gave it a 4 out of 5 because of video photography. It very much did match a 70s tone that she was trying to reach for, and as a director, and for her first time, she really did a bang up fantastic job when it came to creating the 1970s atmosphere for the movie, even right down to some of the outfits some of the characters were wearing. You'd almost believe it was like a 70s film. So she did a bang up job with the art photography direction for sure. Her character was probably one of my favorites, of course, and I think she's kind of a marketing genius to use her celebrity from acting and Playboy over the years. I think Brande did a good job at including herself in her first directorial debut, because it definitely helped sold more copies, I assume. So that was a very smart business move on her end. I mean, most directors that do direct, they do sometimes put themselves in their movies for like just a clip or so. But Brande went a different strategic way that was only to her benefit, because she was using her name and using that as a selling feature to get you to watch the movie, because it worked with me. I got bored one day and I just Googled Brande Roderick just to see what was new in her world, and this whole Wineville thing came up, and I'm going, great, I love horror movies, as you guys know, and I definitely love independent films as well, because I feel like a lot of people knock them down, not really paying attention to the stories too much. Now, that does not have this energy. It's got a very good ball of energy for this movie, Wineville. 4 out of 5 because of the art photography, like I blabbed about a million times, and also the suspense as well, leading up to some of the death scenes. I mean, I think they were very fucking freaky. The first one was just like, whoa, you had to literally just turn your eyes off the screen for a moment, because it was pretty brutal, and that's kind of an accomplishment for a horror movie genre, and for her first directing movie, I should say. I know Brande's had a very vast career in all sorts of things, like TV and movies. You never know, maybe one day she'll surprise us and do a music video. But for her first picture directing, it was very good. I wanted to also mention that there is not a huge category of female directors in the horror movie genre. It's a very, very fine line and slim pickings. So the fact that she's going to be one of the few female directors to be in that horror movie genre, because there's only a few, that's fantastic, because it was a very good layout. Each scene was like, the death scenes, I should say, each scene for them was just fantastic, and I thought, wow, she really has a crazy sick imagination, and she can really tell a story and leave the impact of suspense and thrills and scariness and basically mesh it into one. Marketing genius she is. She used herself as a foundation to sell her first director picture, and I'm excited to see what she comes up with next. Now, mind you, if they came up with a Wineville 2, it would feel pretty redundant unless it was like with a new batch of characters or something. But I wanted to talk about the cliches of some of the characters in it. It's mostly the dudes in the film that were just like the cliche of every stereotype. For example, the one with her and the cop, they're supposed to be having this like long misconnection after how many years. She's coming back into her hometown because she's getting money from a will, from a vineyard. So, and it leads to all these crazy things in between, but needless to say, she has a cop character where it seems that they knew each other for quite some time and they're just reconnecting. Now, props to Brande for making one of her main actors and also one of the other actors to sell the film. Real kudos to you for picking someone of color. that as a black man, because I felt like, we don't really see a lot in that aspect, and it's like usually they're the third or fourth lead sometimes in these genres of independent films, but I'm very glad to see that Brande branched out and used a man of color for one of the male leads. That was her love interest. I was not believing their connections as like two people that haven't seen each other, and they're just dying to reconnect and get that connection going. I mean, you did feel it towards the end when her character was finally opening up to him about some of the traumatic childhood events that basically led her to fuck off from the vineyard. So that I started to believe their passion towards the end of the film, and maybe that was because of Brandy's character. Really, it was pardon me, it's only a compliment to her acting, but I feel like she was kind of carrying the film in many ways with her acting, and especially when it came to that scene where she's opening up to him. I feel like her acting was a strong presence that you couldn't really notice if any other actors were, perhaps in my opinion, maybe not doing a good job, because Brande just kind of distracted you from that. Oh jeez, I'm coughing here, and it's been a cold couple days over here, and I'm filming this on November 22nd, so I wanted to make sure that I had a backup episode, because I know some of my guests here are taking their time coming on my rabbit ears. I wanted to say, for the first episode of Rabbit Ears, as a side note from my Wineville movie review here, I feel like my Rabbit Ears segment is surely taking its fucking time. The first episode, my full intention was to have Michelle Baina on. She was May 2005 cover model and did some other work related with Playboy, so I thought, hey, it would be more than awesome to interview her, and I've kept up with her periodically through the months, like, hey, you still want to do this? And she's like, yeah, I do. And every time she messages me, she's like, I'm just caught up with life, busy, but it's still on. And it's been going on for like 2 months now, but I'll still wait for her to be a guest on my show. And at this point, I don't even know if she's gonna come on. So it's like, I guess my message to you guys is that it's up in the air if she comes on the show. Like, I was under the impression Michelle Baina wanted to come on and jibber jabber for maybe about 10-15 minutes. That was my intention. Ask her some fan questions and some related Playboy questions, of course. And I do genuinely believe her. It just seems like, I don't know if, I'm not going to say it's a guarantee to have her on the show, but she has reassured me a couple times that she'd still like to do it. She just doesn't know when. But I'm starting to get a little bit antsy-pantsy, my friends. So anyways, I just wanted to give you guys a side update on the Rabbit Ears guest, because it is taking its time, and some days I'm starting to think maybe Guess Amikin is the only guest I'll ever have for maybe my Rabbit Ears segment, which was not the case, because I was communicating frequently with quite a few of my guests to get them on. But then these batshit crazy things happen, and my guests where they're like, I just can't do it. Something wild came up, and I'm going, damn, just my fucking luck. But if it does drag on way too long, which I already think it is, because this was supposed to be a weekly show, there's always season 2 for Rabbit Ears. And maybe by then I will have these guests a little bit, well, I'm just trying to be nice about it. How do I say it? Maybe they'll hurry the fuck up in a timely fashion. And then, listen, guys, I get everybody's got a busy life, and I'm just thankful for anyone to even kind of keep me on the side to do an interview for my page, because they're really just doing me a favor. So, enough of that ramble. I just wanted to basically fill you in on the very long waiting period time for some of my guests. So just tune back in, and I recorded this specifically just in case this got tied up with other things. So of course, but I figured what a great way to talk about a Playboy model, which would be Brande Roderick, and she's also a Playboy of the Year, very controversial in the Playboy world. So I figured I would do her for my YouTube channel because it's a perfect mesh. It's Brande Roderick plus horror movies. Playboy fans and horror movie fans will maybe like what I jibber jabbered about and discussed throughout this video, which is all an opinion, by the way. Long story short, which it never is with myself here, if I say that, you're in for a long haul. It was a 4 out of 5. The cliches of the characters, I did not enjoy. It was mostly the male dudes. I mean, on the dude aspect of the film, Wineville, I was not digging some of these cliches for the characters that she was having, and for each male too. It was just like, for each dude she found in my opinion, it's like she just made the biggest stereotype for each dude and just rolled with it. Yes, maybe those are people that you met in the 70s, but I found a lot of the male characters and presence, besides the cop at times, because his performance was really carried through Brandy's acting, if you ask me. I wasn't digging the cliches of the dudes. It's like she found the most hugest stereotype of like each dude, of like the jock, blah blah blah, big guy, skinny guy, and each character's personality is just like the biggest stereotype for me on that end. Like every time one of the dudes would leave the screen, I'd be like, oh, thank goodness, Brandy's coming back on the scene. For that old lady that she picked, wow, she was real convincing, the creepy old lady, and that was fucking magnificent. I'm not knocking the death scenes, the impact, the suspense that led to the death scenes. Altogether, it was a very suspenseful film, a very unique charm it had to it. It's kind of like this hidden gem that maybe not so much this generation might get a kick out of it, and this is just usually how it goes sometimes. Maybe the next generation will get a kick out of it. Maybe they'll get it more so than we are now, and that's called making a piece of art that's ahead of its time. So, not that this generation didn't get it. I got it. I liked it. But you just never know when you make a picture, Brady, where it might turn or it might come like this cult classic, and you never expected maybe something, later down the line brings it back up, and it's just this phenomenon again. And 4 out of 5. The video photography, Brandy's acting was very skillful and very believable. I think I almost got disappointed when she left the screen and another character came on. I was like, damn, when's Brandy coming back? Like she's really carrying this whole fucking film, because not only is she acting in it, but she's directing it. Oh, and I also wanted to mention, because I tend to babble into like 4 different subjects at once and then try to get you guys to decipher it and try to make sense of it, which is unfair, but I wanted to say that there's not too many female directors in the horror genre. There's a small select group, and I'm glad to see that Brandy is now a part of it, because here in Canada we have one fiery redhead female director. In 2017, she did a segment in a movie called XX. Now, if you guys go look it up, it's called XX 2017 horror film. Now, there's 4 female horror movie directors that all put their movie into this one movie, which is XX, and it's from 2017. So, the film showcases just to show the strong personalities of women in directing, and kind of just shedding light on it as well. I noticed with that film, just show like, hey, there's not too many female directors here. So the fact that Brande's venturing into this, I'm very excited to see what she comes up with next as her next directing picture comes out. I'm hoping it's as good as this one. I hope the suspense, and hey, maybe she might even surprise us and do maybe a horror comedy. You know, not just keep sticking with horror, because I notice if you just keep doing horror, it's just like, all right, we like horror movies, but you need to, have some diversity, and I'm sure Brande knows all about diversity. So, the next one I'm hoping at least a horror comedy. I'm hoping her next one will be something that'll make us laugh, and maybe even like a vampire flick. That would be really something cool. Like